School for the 2019 Veterans Day Assembly Program. We're honored to have the opportunity to recognize our local veterans and those of you who have traveled to be with us today. At this time, the colors will be presented by the Cullman City Police Department Honor Guard. When the colors are at the front, SGA President John Luke Hornsby will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And following the pledge, 5th grade student Isabella Pipes will sing the national anthem. Please remain standing after the anthem for the posting of the colors.
Attention.
Salute to pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
You see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gained proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. Wait. Mark.
You may be seated.
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterities, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings upon their chests. These are men, America's best. 100 men will test today, but only 3 with the Green Beret. Trained to live off nature's land, trained in combat, hand to hand. Men who fight by night and day, courage takes from the Green Beret. Silver wings upon their chests. These are men, America's best. 100 men will test today, but only 3 with the Green Beret. Back at home, a young wife waits. Her Green Beret has met his fate. He has died for those oppressed, leaving her this last request. Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man, he'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret. If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from the sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud
Wow. Fantastic. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you, Can we dismiss school Monday? Is that okay? Okay. No school Monday, right? But I want you to do me a favor. When you get up Monday morning, I want you to just say one thing. Thank you, veterans. That's two things, I guess. Thank you, veterans, okay? Would you do that for me? Y'all done a great job, and thank you so much. And it's an honor for me to be here today at West Elementary. I think this is the largest class we've ever seen here. Dr. Page, is that right? Jane, you remember back when you used to do it in the 4th grade, right? This looks like the largest class. This is something I want to do today to honor the veterans. And it's the story of the ragged old flag. As I walked around a county courthouse square, on a park bench, an old man was sitting there. And I said, your old courthouse is kind of run down. He said, no, it'll do for our little town. I said, your old flagpole's leaned a little bit. That's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it. He said, have a seat. So I sat down. He said, son, is this the first time you've been to our little town? I said, yes, sir, I think it is. He said, well, I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when George Washington took it across the Delaware. Then we got powder burns, a night that Francis Scott Key sat watching it writing, oh, say, can you see? Then she got a bad rip in New Orleans with Pakenham and Jackson tugging at her seams. Then she almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on though. Then she got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. Then she got cut again on Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and the south winds blew hard on that ragged old flag. Then on Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. Then she turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp at Lowatown too. She was in Korea, Vietnam. She even went to the Persian Gulf for Uncle Sam. Then she stormed across the sands of Afghanistan, across the Tigris and the Euphrates, to show those terrorists they can't do as they please. They've got to realize that that ain't no rag, that's our flag. At this very moment, she waves from our ships upon the briny foam. And since September the 11th, there's a lot more folks waving her back here at home. However, in her own good land, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands has been scandalized throughout this land. Now, she's getting threadbare and she's wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in, because she's been through the fires before. And I believe that she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning, we take her down at night, we don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her up right. So on second thought, I guess I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag. As I begin to rise from that park bench, I had to wipe a tear from my eye. Then the old man shook my hand and he said, son, I want you to always remember those brave and noble men and women, the Native American, the black, yellow, and white, that shed their precious blood for those stars and stripes. All I could think of to say as I departed from the old man on that glorious day was, God bless the U.S. of A. Thank you.
On November 11, 1918, the Armistice Agreement was signed to end World War I. In 1938, Congress designated November 11 as Armistice Day. In 1954, to honor the veterans of World War II and the Korean War, Congress designated November the 11th as Veterans Day. This time, we'd like to honor the veterans who are in attendance with us today. From 1941 until 1945, American men and women served in 2 theaters of war in Europe and in the Pacific in World War II. From 1950 until 1953, American men and women served on the Korean Peninsula in the Korean War. From the mid-1950s until 1975, American men and women served in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia in the Vietnam War. From 1990 until 1991, American men and women served in Iraq and in Kuwait in Operation Desert Storm. From 2001 to 2013, American men and women served in many parts of the world, including Afghanistan in the War on Terror. And throughout our history, American men and women have served in times of peace and been called on at a moment's notice to go to all areas of the world in defense of our nation. At this time, if you are a veteran and you're in attendance with us today, would you please stand so that we can recognize you? If you are a current member of the Armed Services and are in attendance with us today, would you please stand so we can recognize you as well? If you are a spouse of a current member of the Armed Services, would you please stand at this time? We'd like to honor you. Any of our West Elementary students who have family members currently serving in the Armed Services, please stand and be recognized.
Veterans, please stand when you hear a branch of service song.
Stand
We'd like to honor our Gold Star mother or father that's in attendance at our ceremony today. A Gold Star mother or father is a parent who has lost a son or daughter in the service of our armed forces. If you are a Gold Star mother or father, please stand and be recognized at this time. And at this time, we join me in a moment of silence for all men and women who have died in the service of our armed forces. Thank you. This time, Commander Will Harris from the VFW Post 2214 will now come forward, and he has a few words for us. Commander Harris, I'm sorry, Commander Harris, I do this every year. We have something in between you speaking, so hold on. I do this every year, I mess it up every year. There's one more ceremony. Now, Commander Harris.
Oh. It's very emotional for me. This bunch right here pulled it right out of me. Okay? This young lady singing the national anthem. So I thought, most of the time I don't really know what I'm going to say. But I want to talk a little bit about history. And I know that's a subject that a lot of you folks don't really like that much. but it's something that you should remember forever. History is important. And to show you what history does for you, there's a young man sitting in the back of this audience here that I've known his whole life. Chris, please stand up a minute. That's Chris Gammon. He followed my footsteps. He's in Special Forces. He stays deployed all the time, defending our freedom. Thank you, Chris. You're the mother of all of us. 22 a day. 22 a day. And that number is driving me crazy because I don't understand. And neither does anyone else. And that's the real tragedy of it all. That's the history of it all. Why? I personally know 3 that have committed suicide. 3. And that's the history. The history of this school. I used to live right down the road here at Brickyard. My grandparents lived right next to Brickyard Church. I can remember as a 2 or 3-year-old, 4-year-old, coming down here with my parents because my grandparents lived in the house next to Brickyard Church and playing in the churchyard when it was just one building, that rock building in the front. And I remember that. I remember playing football here. I played for Coleman. I remember living here. I remember all of my life here prepared me for what I faced later on in life. And the history of my life is, in 1966, I got myself kind of hemmed up, and I was in trouble, and it was either go to the Army or maybe go somewhere else that I didn't want to go. And you will find, if you really talk to a lot of folks in the service, you find out that a lot of guys that made it a career managed to get themselves hemmed up as a civilian, and they needed somewhere to go, and they needed to go fast. And Uncle Sam will, in fact, send you places. That's the history. My history is I have been, and the Army has given me the opportunity to see things. I was one of the last tourists that climbed the Leaning Tower of Pisa before they closed it because it was too dangerous. I've got a picture of myself standing there like this with my hands up. And it's from a distance, and of course it looks like I'm holding the tower up. I have seen the canals of Venice, the mountains of the Bavarian Alps, and I have just, it's because of the military. It's what it did for me. That's my history. 25 years, 11 months, and 23 days. And I loved every minute of it. Now my history is I'm a wreck. If you notice when I was walking around here, I'm limping, and that's because I've got bad knees, I've got a bad ankle, I've got a bad hip. My shoulder's giving up on me. But it's because of the things that I did as a military guy. Carrying heavy rucksacks, 110, 115 pounds, and running with that bad boy. And it's giving me a hard time. Right now to this day, it's still giving me a hard time. And there's guys here that I can see, I know that it's still giving you a hard time. Agent Orange got us. And it got the guys in Korea. And it got the Navy guys off the coast. So that's the history of Vietnam. And I'm a piece of that history. But part of my history goes further than that. Well, I worked in Europe for 4.5 years. It was the finest time of my life. Worked with some really good folks. Finished up my career in the National Guard with the 20th Special Forces Group on active duty with them. They call it an AGR, Additional Guard and Reserve Manpower, that allows the National Guard and the Reserve to have more full-time people. Uncle Sam takes care of it. The rest of the full-time people are state employees. So the AGR program afforded me the opportunity to finish out my career and actually get promoted to sergeant major. Now, what you guys need to realize, all of you, all you young folks, these folks right here, you notice they got hats on and they're limping and they're kind of proud of their Vietnam service, they're proud of their military service. They're the ones that made the sacrifice that enabled you guys to come up here and do this presentation. And gee whiz, what a presentation that was. Honest to gosh. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. Young lady, you got a voice now. You really have a voice, so take care of it. This is my first time to be asked to speak here. I've had the opportunity to speak in other places at other times, and I never know what I'm going to say. I never do. It depends on you guys. I can look out there and I can see brothers in arms. I can see sisters in arms. I can see you. I can see you. The active duty guys that are here, it's hard to realize what that's doing to the families. Because this, where are you? This young, stand up, babe. Stand up. This young lady right here is my wife for 47 years. She is the president of the VFW Auxiliary. They're doing great work. But more than anything else, she is the reason I have this. Because if I had not had that family support, if I had not been able to just walk away from home and know that the youngins were going to be taken care of, the hogs and the horses were going to be taken care of, had I not known that, I couldn't have done my job. And the families are suffering right along with our active duty guys and our guys that just recently retired and retired guys. The families are suffering. Now my son is a career soldier. He's a cavalry scout. I couldn't talk him out of the cow. He is a cavalry scout. He's over at Fort Benning right now teaching young junior officers tactics. My son told me probably the key thing. Once you're in combat and you come home, you're never the same. And I want to leave you guys with this. That's the hardest thing for a returning soldier to understand, is those folks that they love the most don't understand who they are anymore. And that's the truth of it. You have children that don't even know who their father is. I personally know of folks who have 8 years out of the 18, 9 years in combat. And our unit, Chris, and you know it as well as I do, he's getting ready to deploy again. When you start thinking of it, 8 years in combat, they are never the same. But they're going to come home and they're going to be looking for that comfort zone, and you folks are not going to recognize who they are. And that is the history of it. And you guys are suffering, your families are suffering, we're all suffering together. And as long as we suffer together and we work on it together, we may be able to get something done. So it's a joint effort. No one is going to be able to stand up here and have the answers, because I certainly don't have them. And I will tell you that the folks at the national level, I know this for a fact, the folks at the national level have no idea what to do about our veterans and our active duty people that are committing suicide. They don't know what to do. They try program after program and they don't work. And it's going to take us, it's going to take the families, it's going to take former veterans, and it's going to take active duty veterans to put our heads together and come up with something that will stop this. I've lost a lot of good friends, and you look around here and you're going to find a lot of your grandpas, youngins, and a lot of your great grandpas that are still suffering through that. losing friends, losing people. There's nothing more intense than a friend in combat. It is intense. And when you lose that friend, you never get over it. Never get over it. So, this is a great program, folks. I've never attended one like this. I never have. It's great. It really is. You people are really doing the right thing, and you're doing the job for us. And the veterans that show up for that, you see the appreciation at this school. You see the appreciation of these youngins, and it warms your heart, and it makes you think, you know, maybe it was all worth it. Well, no, there's no maybe to it. It really was all worth it. Every swinging injury that I ever went through, my bad shoulder, my bad hips, and everything else that I've gone through, watching my son leave to go fight in a war that it's 18 years long. It's hard. So to the families, I salute you. Without you, your active duty, yes, sir. Without the family support, the guys and the young ladies can't do their job. Now, as far as I want to mention the young ladies that are now in combat and in harm's way, this is the first time in my lifetime. I'm 73 years old. This is the first time in my lifetime that I've seen young ladies come back without arms, without legs, wounded in terrible ways. This is the first time our young women have participated in combat. So it is a family thing, folks. It is a family thing. And it's going to take our family, our military family, our folks that are on active duty. It's going to take the folks that have spent time in the service and are retired and spent their 2 or 3 or 4 years in and got out. It's going to take all of us together to do something about this. Because I want to throw some numbers at you. The Army guys and the Air Force guys and everybody else got to understand this. If we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide for a week, that's 154 people. That's a company of combat soldiers. A week, that's a battalion a month. That's a couple of brigades every 6 months. And when you start looking at the numbers, it's scary. It's frightening. We're losing an army of veterans. And I just saw a report, and the active duty guys are reporting somewhere in the Army now. They're reporting somewhere in the 550, 560 people have committed suicide on active duty in the military, in the Army. So it's a situation that we're all going to have to face. And please remember, we don't need to make these folks suffer because of that. Because they are going to suffer. So let's try to keep them clean and pure here to participate in an exercise like this. Once again, it was an honor to be invited. It's an honor to be here. This is truly amazing, and I swear, old guys have a tendency to tear up pretty quick, but I had a couple of hard times right here. I sure did. So, thank you for asking.
Thank you, Commander Harris. Again, I want to thank all the veterans and the family members and the guests who have joined us today. And on behalf of the faculty and staff of West Elementary School, we thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And we hope this ceremony honors you today. Thank you to the VFW Post 2214. Ms. Jane Homestead is here with us today. West Elementary PTA, they hosted the reception and all the different decorations you see here today. They made that possible. Veterans, if you have a chance to walk through our school, our students have created a lot of artwork. They put it up on the walls to honor you. We would love for you to walk down the hallways to see that. Miss McBrayer, art teacher, helped us do that. Mr. Clemens, our music teacher, 38 years, he has been instrumental. He taught the music, and I think the students did such an outstanding job today. Thank you, Mayor Max Townsend, for being with us today and his rendition of the Ragged Old Flag. And we always appreciate his attendance and did a great job. Got several more, sorry. Thank you to the 6th grade SGA officers and their sponsor, Ms. White. They were helpful in the reception today in passing out the flags. I want to say a special thank you to Captain Sizemore for his attendance today. He's a knowledge management officer assigned to the Alabama Army National Guard in Montgomery, and last year he was in Kuwait, and he joined Ms. Holtz's class with Skype or FaceTime. Somehow they joined each other and talked to each other from Kuwait. We appreciate that. Thank you to Sergeant Harvey. He's a supply sergeant with the HHC 167th Infantry based out of Talladega. The local workout place, CrossFit, did a workout in honor of Travis Nelson. Many of you know Miss Denise Delaney is here today, and her son was Mr. Nelson. We honor her today with the Gold Star Medal. We're so glad she's here with us every year. I'd like to thank our students one more time. I want to say y'all did. Somebody asked me today and said, Dr. Page, was it good? And I said, it was excellent, and it really was today. I want to thank you again, students. Thank you to our faculty sponsor, Ms. Holtz. Ms. Holtz works tirelessly to put this program on, and to our 5th grade teachers, Ms. Bradley, Ms. Smith, Ms. Hall, Ms. McKellar, and Ms. Doyle for their support of this program. And to Ms. Little, she helped us as well with the music, so thank you, Ms. Little. But thank you again for our veterans. We want to thank you for your service and This concludes our program. Veterans and families, we want to let you, I know